Good evening and welcome to the Psych Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and joining me tonight for another cup is Steve Farrar. How are you?
Aeson, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to our program here this evening.
I always enjoy sitting down with you. But see, we got something to talk about here. Okay, I understand you came from Silicon Valley. I understand that, you built two very big companies and sold them and got out of it, and you wrote a few books and you're teaching courses now. But doing master classes for free, I'm sure the CEO brain in your mind went crazy with this idea. What's up with this?
Yeah, so this is where, in these, as you mentioned, these two organizations in Silicon Valley were for-profits, so we wouldn't necessarily have done this. But now I'm leading this 501c3 nonprofit, and so our North Star is very different. It is not top line and bottom line. Our North Star is it's creating a sustainable and flourishing planet. And my neighbors and people in the grocery stores say, "Wow, how's that going?" Well, it's actually going pretty well. But that's what this masterclass is about. And Neil Donald Walsh, who is the co-founder of Humanities Team, also the author of the Conversations with God book series, he and I created the free program first called Accelerating Your Conscious Evolution, and then the 16-module masterclass called The Art and Science of Conscious Living. And then, as you mentioned, even though our team spent over 6 months creating and recording the masterclass, we do allow people to go through it for free. We invite people to name their own price. And what we're sharing is that we want all 8 billion people on the planet to go through this masterclass, because it teaches about how we can live this delicious life, a conscious life. And when enough of us live this way together, not only is it fantastic for us and our families, but, voila, tipping point. And we all know what tipping point brings.
Right. And then, we start creating within our own. But you've also gotten some good names over there. James Sean Prague is doing a, connecting on the other side class. Everyone knows him by now. I mean, he only has 30 some books out.
Yeah.
And then you got the secret scientist discoveries that are changing everything.
Right. With Nassim Haramein and Greg Braden. Nassim Haramein just announced his International Space Federation, and this thing Einstein was working on to the end of his life called a unified field theory. Nassim's now got the equations. He's actually bringing that unified physics research forward now. So, yeah, really amazing faculty over at Humanities Team.
You do. Now tell everybody about how this works, because it's like, how's this work? Do they just sign up and watch? Do they got to create a profile? Is there a subscription fee? What's the game?
Yeah. So, well, first let me share this, my book, A New Universal Dream. So it covers a over 50-year time span. So from me at age 12 all the way to the present time in Humanities Team, the launch of Humanities Team over 20 years ago. And now what it's grown into, where we are now the largest global nonprofit in transformational education. So that means then we've got a lot of a big library of educational programs and lots of new programs in the pipeline. So for starters, just for people that aren't familiar with Humanities Team, that's spelled with a Y, by the way, humanitiesteam.org. Up in the top left, it has programs, and if you pull that down at the bottom of the programs, it's got free programs. So you could go into free programs and just watch. There's 60 minutes each of them, with the scientists, with the mediums, with near-death experience, Neil Donald Walsh and I, all of these programs. And that would be a good way to get started. So, and we're a nonprofit. So our North Star, so to speak, is, hey, let's help people just live a great life, a conscious life. And let's create a planet that way. Now, for people that are on this journey, this conscious journey, that's what Humanities Team is all about, building community like that. And so we have the streaming platform, and that's where you get into economical education instead of paying transformational education. It's now it's 400, 450 thereabouts per entry level masterclass. Our streaming platform with hundreds of transformational education programs, and then all these live programs and mentoring programs and all of these things, is $399 a year. So it's pretty economical. All of the programs we've just talked about, the 55 in the pipeline, and all of those are there. So, and it's for people all over the world. We're now translating in 75 languages for these new programs. So, if you're in Africa, there's a good chance we're covering the language that you've got there. I mean, I think we're the first in the industry to be translating in so many languages.
You are the first in the industry, and $450 for a master program is cheap. I mean, my psychic mastery and my master of metaphysics was $3,000 each.
Yeah,
and that's not a weekend. That was a 6-month course. How is the course like for people taking the classes? How does that side of it work?
Yeah, so this one that we're talking about here now, called The Art and Science of Conscious Living. This is the brand new one that Neil, Donald Walsh, and I created. So we spent 6 months just doing the research on conscious living, going back to antiquity, what people have shared back over time, the science of this, and then we get into all of the practical application of living it, and with all of the dimensions of what conscious living is. So the program was designed for really anything from beginner to somebody in mastery there that's really got decades in. We wanted to cover all of the bases, so we talk in layman's terms, but we get into some pretty sophisticated concepts, highly evolved beings, and how they live on other planets. If you've read any of the Conversations with God book series,
right,
it gets into that, of where God, that's because it's called Conversations with God, shares, hey, out in the universe, there are highly evolved beings, and these are many of the ways that they live their lives. So we bring all of that into the program. Most people aren't doing all of these things, including me. I'm growing into many of these things myself, what the evolved beings do. My wife and I have looked at the whole list, and we said, man, would we love to be born on a planet like this, where there's no ownership, where you share everything, where there's no competition. These are a few of the examples.
Right. And, there's this new buzzword going on called soul conscious business. What's your thought on that? Do you see us going in that direction?
Toward conscious business, or
soul conscious business?
Oh, soul conscious business. Yeah, love it. I haven't heard that term, but conscious business, if it's truly conscious business the way we look at it in the culture we talk about building, yes, it is soul conscious business. It's a conscious business. It's coming from the basis of a spiritual universe where everything is energy inside of this spiritual universe, which is how it works. We're both receivers and transmitters, and where we're in this connection state with the divine. We actually build a culture that way. And where we build a culture that way, we can't even think about producing products or services that are not of value to homes and communities in the world. That's what the boardroom conversation starts with. Now, let me just back up. You shared, which is true, I come from Silicon Valley. Okay. In Silicon Valley, in the boardroom, I can promise you what that discussion looks like in almost all of the boardrooms today. And it's very much around how are we going to get more lift on top line and bottom line? And you start bringing up things like, but our products and services, how well are they meeting people's needs and nurturing community and supporting families and stewarding the earth? They're going to throw you right the heck out of the boardroom. Now,
they're going to look and say, we don't care. That's not our mission here. Our bottom line is down 20%. Our bottom line is down 15%. Our projections are being off, and they can only blame that so much on COVID. I think the boardrooms in Silicon Valley are almost like a war zone, or at least the ones I've sat in has been.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is when you turn it around, and this is how I was able to more or less retire, at least financially, not in work, but financially. And a long time ago
Right.
was business was a conscious business. And when you turn it around and when you're focused truly on community and soul conscious business, where we're talking about a spiritual universe and we're energy giving back to the community and to even, vendors are treated well. Of course, customers and employees are treated well. Where we build a truly conscious business like that, then the sky's the limit. My business took off. Now, you can't have it take off because you're trying to manipulate things and create consciousness to make money, because people will see through that. But where it's authentic, where it's real, where you open your heart, where there's real listening and hearing, and real, where you're truly pointed toward helping the community around you, then yes, my experience is your business actually takes off. And I think that's the future of business, is soul conscious business.
Right. In your experiences, how is it as CEOs? Because I'm sorry, I'm seeing a lot of them change spots, change offices, they just disappear off the planet. What's your theory on this one?
Well, honestly, so the big thing that's going on in CEOs that you mentioned, business people in the world, is post-COVID, which is where we are. With the kinds of things going on out in the world, we don't need the extreme weather and on and on and on. People are looking inside of their lives to say, is this all there is? Is there more than this? Is there something that could bring me closer to my deeper values, to my spouse, to my home, to my community, to my good friends, etc. The generation we grew up in, Aeson, where the boomer generation, where it was about just career, and the old American dream and things, and in today's world, that's not cutting it. And so this, what you mentioned, as I leave this seat and I'm go to another, and I try this and I try that. People are really, truly, they've got their antennas up, their feelers up to what is going to serve me better. That's why this is such an important conversation that we're having here. Because when we're talking about where we get educated in conscious living, we really understand it and then start living into it, bam, then it starts coming together. Then you start living in flow. Then you start finding this joy and these things that you want in all of your relationships and in your life.
Right. And I think that you're very much at odds, I would say, with the Australian CEO that's been leaked all over the media, what he said in the meetings about, employees need to get back to fearing their employer and unemployment needs to go up 40%. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, my this organization that I'm part of, Humanity's Team, we have been all virtual from the beginning. I have no assistant with me, and I'm both the chairman and the CEO of this nonprofit. There's no assistant here in the building. We're virtual all over the world, mostly in the U.S., but some outside of actually all the country coordinators. There's 65 of them. Of course, they're all outside of the country. But so no, we don't go in that direction. If you've got to do this, and we've got to boost our productivity and so on. So this is a thing. This is a good area of contrast to talk about. So in conscious business, where what amps us up and gets us out of bed running to our workplace in the morning is like, it's really important that we're creating this world that is going to become sustainable and flourishing, and that's going to address extreme weather, that's going to address all of these things, the exhaustion, fatigue, weary, grief, sadness, we could go on, that so many people feel.
Right.
We're living into what life has to offer. You're in flow. And so we don't have to say that we're going to try and lift up, performance. You better put in more hours, or I don't ever ask people about hours. We actually on vacation, as people need to take off, they take off, for whatever. We don't have any limit, front or back.
And you're not doing that by doing a 1099 with your instructors. You're contracting them in an equal contract.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they're treated fantastic. We're partners and colleagues, all of us. That means it's about appreciation, and we can see that we're contributing. We have different ways that we can contribute, that we have different gifts and things. So it's a completely different world than Silicon Valley world. Yeah, completely different.
You talk about building sustainability. I think that you're tapping into a good bit of it there by saying, no, we don't have a big building sitting on the San Francisco Bay, or, taking up this. Everyone's all over the world. You work where you want to work, as long as you've got the connection and can get the work done, which I think is, kind of shaking up those baby boomers in leadership right now. Like, it's been a big push for them to, figure out what to go, where to go, once they get the taste from work from home, and then it's like, oh no, everyone's need back in the office. It's like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah. So, and let me just bring this in for people that don't know it. Aeson, I know you've read some of my book, A New Universal Dream, which brings a lot of history here in Silicon Valley. But so this is not just a new agey, oh yeah, this will feel good and try this. And this is actually track record. This is what happened. We're talking about when I was in Silicon Valley. For people that don't know, my first company, there were two guys, me and another guy, used furniture, a very small executive suite in South San Francisco, which was the cheapest place we could start an office. And then we grew that to 75 million in over 10 years. And then the second company started, we grew it inside of the first one, and that grew to 75 million in 2 years. So, and how did we do that? Because we were actually hiring the same kinds of people that the technology firms were hiring. We were a technology organization ourselves. The way we did it was through creating a conscious culture, this soul conscious culture that we're talking about. And where you create something like that, it's a magnet. It's a magnet. And so I'm talking from experience as I share these things. Truly, entrepreneurs that are listening in, go to the Humanities Team site, the Conscious Leadership Program. Actually, I give it away with people as people buy my book. But so you can go through that program.
You got 5 cups of coffee on your book. It was very entertaining, easy to read, and had a lot of information on it. Now you've got a community over there, and it looks to me like it looks a little bit like Ning, but not Ning. What's your, how's that? It's humanities.team. How's that working? Because we've talked about building community a few times.
Yeah, we're talking about the streaming platform, Humanity Stream.
No, we're talking about the profiles
of Humanities
Team. Yeah.
Yeah, Humanities Team. So, and we have actually been on mission from when we were founded 20 years ago in June 2003. What we said we were doing then, as we were market facing, so to speak, is awakening oneness in the world. Today, we describe it a little different because I think it reaches and touches people from where they are a little easier, and that is to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. So that's in 17 years. So, and when we talk about what conscious living is, it's bringing in the new quantum physics, the new science. And of course, the new science is saying that everything is deeply interconnected and interrelated. In fact, one way of describing it is a universal consciousness that's animating all of life. And we probably all heard that term before, which is why we go spiritual with that. It's a spiritual universe, which means it's an energetic universe, which means we have to pay attention to our own vibration as part of this, you could call it, body of which we are a part.
Right. And so how do you balance that? Like, how is the community growing? Do you got a good environment there? Is it easy to use?
Yeah. So, well, again, we're growing real well. Our subscription platform is now going to 3,500 and growing very nicely. Again, what's unfortunate is pain is a driver. It pushes people toward new ways of living. And conscious living is, as far as we can tell, it is the key remedy to conventional living that's out in the world. Conventional living, which is more how we all grew up, the roller coaster of it's a bad day, it's a good day. in conscious living, where we have a daily practice and we're living holistically and stuff, it's like being on a raft where you're floating up above the roller coaster of up and down living. So we're growing in every way, on social media, on email list, on subscriptions to our Stream Plus platform, on country coordinators out in the world, on funds that we're raising, supporting our Changing Humanity's Future initiative. In all of these ways, we're actually growing substantially right now. And unfortunately, it's because of, this, what I'm calling pain, individual pain and collective pain. Now, the education platform. Okay, so that's called Humanity Stream, humanitystream.net, and you can see it. And it's a true streaming platform. So that means that it's on a pad, on phone, Roku. It's on your Apple phone. So I could pull up the
application.org, Steve.
Yeah, it's very cool. The app is one of the neatest things about it. So people can't see this, I guess, as I hold it up, because
it's covered by the green screen. But no, it's humanitystream.org is the streaming platform.
Or .net, humanitystream.net.
It's org. Your net doesn't go to anywhere.
Oh, so humanitesteam.org, and then should be humanitystream with a STREAM.net should come up. So this is a true streaming platform. And so true streaming platforms means super easy, right? That you've got all of the, even for people that don't belong, there's something called Taste to Stream. So you can download it from your Apple app store, Humanity Stream Plus. And then there's Taste to Stream, where we've got 65 first video programs you can download. And it's free education within the science and mediumship and near-death experience and all of these things. And then when you have a subscription, which is $39.99 a month or $3.99 a year. Also, there's the 1-for-1, so we're actually giving it away, especially outside of this country, for people that can't afford it. They're on the conscious journey, and they don't have budget outside of this country. That's pretty economical in the U.S. In other countries, that's not economical at all.
It isn't. Especially looking at the economy and how things are changing, and also people getting worried about where some of this stuff is headed. It's, science is starting to catch up with us. Like, we've been very much ahead, in the metaphysical world, ahead of it. We may not have the fancy terms, but we've been ahead of it. And it's really cool that science is starting to catch up and get with stuff.
Yes, it is. Science is all over this stuff. Nobel Prize for Physics, entanglement, October of last year. I mentioned Nassim Harameyn's International Space Federation with this unified physics research, and then Greg Braden. A lot of people have read his books. Bruce Lipton. A lot of people have read his books. They're getting into this science. One of the programs that we created, this was with Nassim Harameyn and Greg Braden, is called Forbidden Science. And the reason it's called that, Greg actually insisted we call it that, is because a lot of this new science that's affirming what mystics taught, back in antiquity, is not allowed in the classroom today. It's still all Newtonian science of everything is separate, and that it's just a physical science. There's no spiritual or energy or all of the things that science is affirming today. You can't teach it in the classroom here in the U.S. yet.
Well, that, and you can't even teach quantum physics yet.
Yeah, right.
The best they get out of it is string theory, and that's 40 years old now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you should hear Nassim Harameyn talk, International Space Federation. He's got a big program Friday this week and Saturday, and we're actually a partner that's a part of it. And he says physics has just been stale for decades, in terms of bringing forth real discovery. And boy, he's turning physics on its head with all of his research.
Let's look at some of your faculty here, because you've got some very big names, some very movers and shakers in the psychic industry. You got, work with, instructors. I just saw you a minute ago, because Vincent Von Braga is over there. Greg Braden, You know that y'all guys will know him from Discovery's Ancient Aliens. He's over here teaching. Um, because I know a lot of the faces from the industry. I'm thinking of people that, you know, a lot of our non-industry people. Master Wang Ting, I can never say his name. He's a beautiful Buddhist. Master Ming Tu Gu.
Yes, yes, I know, Master, and I'll need to pull this up myself to look at these, but because there are hundreds of teachers here when you go to the streaming platform. Greg Braden has 4 master classes. Bruce Lipton has got a couple, and we got a brand new one coming out with him here in the next 30 days.
Right.
So, yeah, and there are hundreds, and most of the people in the transformational education industry have one or more programs there. It's deep.
And these aren't just like recorded Zoom calls. These are actually well-produced, teachable classes with manuals and certifications. Also, one here a moment ago I'm interested in. It's the Angel Communicator class. And it comes out with a certification. When you're done, you can be an angel communicator. So that's important.
These are not interviews. No. These are true transformational education programs, and some percentage are master classes we created unique to Humanities Team. All the Greg Braden programs, and Bruce Lichten and Lynn McTaggart, Gil Donald Walsh, Michael Bethquith. I could go on, but there's Suzanne Giesman, Dr. Eben Alexander. So all of these programs, the master classes, are unique to Humanities Team. We created them, but all of the others are solid transformational education programs. We have an onboarding process to make sure that the quality of the content is best of breed, and that the manner in which these were recorded is at a very high bar. So on any device anywhere in the world, you can watch these educational programs and really get something out of it.
Yeah, and the fee is not that much for it. The 1-for-1, like if you are interested in like just the angel course, you can go in and take just the angel course. You can go in and take, just this. And then you have a podcast. Now let's talk about these podcasts over here, and get that out to them so they can also get that on their preferred thing. Tell us about your podcast episodes.
Yeah, so the podcast episodes are with all of these kinds of people we talk about, Greg and Michael and Neil. And so there's about half of them are with these people that are, I'll call it iconic, that are well-known names. And about half are what I call diamonds. They're fantastic people, maybe not as well known. A woman named Jude Currivan out of England, the UK, who's terrific. She's actually becoming well known in homes, and other people that aren't as well known that are amazing teachers in science, in spirituality, in embodied practices. So we do a live program every Wednesday morning, and then the podcast that we create comes out of that live broadcast. We just cut it down and then publish it usually on Fridays.
Right. It takes a bit to review, and get all the bumps and whistles and all that. Where can they listen to that at? Is it just on your platform, or can they get it on like Spotify?
Yeah, all of the platforms, Apple, Spotify, all of the platforms. Yeah, if you go to Humanities Team Podcast again on the App Store, you'll see us out on podcast on all of the platforms, and we've got a real nice listenership again in this area of conscious living. So that's really our whole thing. Is most of us again grew up. I didn't grow up living consciously. I'd sit on the couch and I wonder, will I be anybody? And I wasn't necessarily very proactive and stuff. And then over the course of a career, one, became very proactive, and two, educated myself like crazy on all of the things that conscious living is, where we understand, we're essentially a cell, an energy cell in this body of life, this spiritual universe that I was describing. That is who we are, and where we live as a healthy cell in the body of life, then that's when everything comes together and works so beautifully. And what's happened is we've just over all these years drifted off course where it became about climbing to the higher rungs of the American dream, power, fame, and fortune. And this was, again, one of the reasons I wrote my book is most people aren't going to land there in that front row seat that I had, where you've got all of these friends that are pretty amazing people that more or less won the lottery. They're minting money from these companies that they run. As you know, we talked about this a little bit last time I was here, is what people don't know is it's not what people think. It's kind of like this mirage where you're always, that kid's cartoon where the oasis is always just right out there, until you get there and then, it's moved. It just keeps moving. There's a bigger and bigger number that you're chasing, which was putting more and more pressure and stress on your relationships. And once we really see that for what it is, and most people won't get that chance because they won't be in Silicon Valley. Again, it's part of why I wrote my book. Then we can start educating ourselves on another way of living, coming back into balance and flow, with the planet and the universe.
Or even Silicon Valley move out, run to Wyoming, run to, Arizona, these bigger areas. And it's not because their business needs the air. It's because they're sick of the environment. I mean, if we look at influencer Jeffrey Sturry, said, I was sick of LA. I was sick of the people. I was sick of the community. I needed to slow down. So he picked up and moved out to Wyoming and is now owning a yak ranch. But, that's just like a well-known story. I'm seeing this repeated over and over again. Steve, when do you think the American dream is going to get an update?
I think, you and I, Aeson, are giving it an update here now. It's really, I think people's ears are perked. I think people are hearing the things we're saying. We're not the only ones. Right. I think we're kind of out as pioneers, I'll call it, with this conscious living thing, because that's getting, at least when we talk into the soul nature, a spiritual nature, we're still pioneers with that. It's a smaller population, but growing there. But I think that it's getting that update right now. I think that this whole material way of living our lives is proving to be very dissatisfying. I don't know anybody of all of the people that I'm in touch with that's still talking about, new mansion, new car, new vacation. Sure, we all want a nice vacation, want to enjoy our home, want to enjoy our community. But I'm hearing people talk about the kinds of things that we're talking about, where we can truly have a delicious life and really live into the fullness of it.
Right. Very much so. All right. Your book is on Amazon. When's the next one coming out?
It's so funny you asked that question, Aeson. And if you'd asked me last week, I would have had a different answer. But what has come to me just in the last week is the next book is going to be on just living consciously, getting into all of the dimensions of what it is. Because it's really quite extensive, right. A lot involved in it. And so, I've already started putting together an outline for this book. Not sure exactly when it's going to come out, but this past book, A New Universal Dream, is really, it's a 50+ year true story of this young man, me, age 12, to who I've grown into, and the history of what happened. It's an autobiography. In many ways, it's a manifesto, because it's getting into this whole conscious living thing. And, I'm obviously amped up. The book is amped up. It's saying, hey, there is a really cool way to live our life, and if you think it's this one thing, that's Silicon Valley, then let's talk, because it isn't that. Right. It's something different than that. So that's kind of what the first book was, where we follow the timeline, of me from 12 to today. This other one is more just going to be going right into the things we can do today to live a fully conscious life and get everything that we want out of it.
That'll be great. And it's on Amazon. It's on Kindle, and you can get it in paperback. Hopefully, Steve will get over to Audible and get that up there very soon for a listening audience. And that'll be up. Well, thank you for coming on. The link is in the show notes, guys, and I'll talk to you later, Steve.
Okay, Aeson, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming back. See you later.
Hey everybody, Lady Gwendolyn here from Rowan Temple of Light, and I'm here to tell you about our events this summer. First up is Beltane in the Hills, May 13th, and that is from 1 to 6. We have entertainment, we have a bunch of vendors, we have a fairy photo shoot. It's going to be exciting. You having any questions, reach out to Earth Magic or to myself. After that, we have Central West Virginia Pagan Pride, August 19th. That's at Holly Gray Park from 11 to 5 for the day. And we will have Sarah Masters coming down from Pittsburgh to be our keynote speaker. We have some great classes for that. So if you want to get involved, reach out to Rowan Temple of Light at Gmail, or just follow us along on Facebook at Rowan Temple of Light, and we look forward to seeing you out in the community. See you there.
Welcome back, Goblins! My name is Jason, and I am the host of the Esoteric Book Club, a podcast that examines titles on the magical, paranormal, the mysterious, and the strange. I release 2 episodes a month, in which I review books on esoteric topics, recap news of the weird, and conduct interviews with authors, practitioners, and experiencers. The Esoteric Book Club can be found on every major podcast service, or can be streamed directly from esotericbookclub.org.
Hi, I'm Aeson Knight. I provide tarot readings covering everything from love and relationships to your life questions and your most spiritual answers. And also, I provide a lot of guidance in finances and divorces and all those relationship problems. So, if you'd like to get a reading from me privately, not on air, you can feel free to do so by visiting aesonknight.com and booking your appointment. I also provide on-demand services, so if your life is a little chaotic, you can go ahead and click that Call Now button there on my site. It'll connect you to Keen, and if you've not been with Keen before, you'll get 3 free minutes to talk with me, so that's great for a quick answer question. All right, guys, back to the show. Enjoy. Bye, y'all.
Hi, I'm Tracy Van. I provide a blended reading consisting of mediumship, psychic, and tarot cards. A reading from me can cover any guidance you need, from relationships with your partner or your family, spiritual, financial, any questions you may need clarity on. If you would like to book an appointment with me, check out my website, tracyvann.com. That's TracyVann.com. I have bookings from 15 to 60 minutes you may choose from. That helps if you just have a quick question, need an answer, or if you're looking for a reading in more depth. I'm here to provide the guidance and clarity for you. Let's just figure it out. Bye.
All right, welcome back.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. I took a little nap earlier, and I'm struggling to come back up, but hey, I made it.
Yeah, we got you back up and running in time for the show.
I did.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. All right, let's dig into Are You an Asshole?
All right, let me get your relationship one up as well, so I'll be ready to go there.
Yeah.
Am I the asshole for refusing to give half the money I will give my parents to my in-laws? 2 years ago, I suffered an accident at work and recently reached an agreement with the company. It was a huge amount. For example purposes, and to make it clear that these are not the real values, I received $100,000. I decided to divide it as follows: $30,000 for me, $30,000 for my wife, $25,000 for emergencies, and $15,000 for my parents. I'm the main breadwinner at home, and my wife and I split the bills 25-75. I don't know if this is important. Well, my wife wants me to divide the money I'm going to give my parents in half and share it with my in-laws, because it's money that would help them too. I refuse, saying that this is money that is up to me to decide how to use it, and that if she wants to help her parents, she is free to use hers as she wants. To be clear, her parents are financially stable and my parents have absurd expenses because my father has several health problems, and basically this money would cover a year or two of his medicines. They are struggling financially, even with my help monthly. She said that this money should be a joint decision and that I was being selfish in deciding its destination without listening to her. Reddit, am I the asshole? Extra, she and I are financially stable, childless, and this money is not needed to pay our expenses, so it will be used for other things.
Mm.
Well, let's break through the first part.
Yeah.
Let's try it in a different example. If you win the lottery, and it was your money, like dead to rights, your money, you made it, like we left an event, you had $20 from the event, you bought $20 worth of lottery tickets, and one of them is the jackpot winner. And let's say that's $100 million jackpot. Well, actually, for this to work out, it has to be a $200 million jackpot, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The part you're getting is $100 million. And you decide to give me 30 million, keep 30 million for yourself, set aside 25 million for expenses and emergencies. And then we decide to, or you decide to give your mother $15 million.
See, that's where I'm at, and that's where my problem's at.
Okay.
First of all, that 15K, I think should go into a trust. I think it would be more profitable to go into a trust.
Okay, but if she had really expensive health care.
Well, again, she would have really good paid health care, but it would go into a trust for her to pay for that health care.
Okay, and if I come up and turn around, and granted, my parents are both deceased, so that doesn't work as cleanly.
Well, yeah, but we have the set of people, I think, as your parents.
Right. So you know, I come up and say, hey.
Right.
$7.5 million for your mother, $7.5 million for my family.
Right.
And you shoot it down. Do I have the right to say that you're being unfair and that it should be a joint decision how that money is divided or what you do with it?
Right. But see, I do not understand why this cannot, if this is the issue. Like, they have the money there to do both, to do all of this. 30 for him, 15 for his wife, 25 to savings, and 15 and 15.
Right, which is basically what he offered her.
Right.
And she didn't like the way he said it.
Right.
Like, I get what he did, and it makes perfect sense to me.
Right.
Is because she's getting 30.
Right.
It would be just as easy for her to take half of that and give it to her parents.
Right.
And just keep the 15 for herself and to do what she wants to with.
Right.
I mean, they're financially stable. They're going to have more than enough to cover emergencies.
Right.
Like, but does she get to sit there and say, this should be a joint decision?
Right.
Because that's fundamentally the crux of this, am I the asshole?
Right. I think that all of it should go to trust, but if they're going to do it this way, you might be the asshole for not taking in all the equation because this money came from an insurance claim. And then my bigger question is who was there? What I mean by that was this.
Brenda says, oh, just to keep you two from arguing, Shannon and I will take the burden off your shoulders and take the parent share. Whatever it may be, we don't care.
Right. But no, what I'm saying about this and why I'm saying it this way is who was there. Here's an example. If it was us and we got the settlement from an insurance claim, who was at the hospital, who was making the chicken soup, who was driving to the doctor's appointments.
Well, but the money is being paid out for his workplace injury.
Right.
And I do understand. I do understand what you're saying is, does his wife become a 50% partner in this?
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to put it in a different scenario.
I know, but that's an important part of the scenario. Because if, because we know Mama Knight doesn't drive.
Right.
So if Joe's family was doing the driving to the doctor's appointments, how they would get the wheelchair in the back of the pickup truck, I'm not sure of. I'm not going to fathom the technological welding advancement there or whatever.
You've met him. He can probably palm your head like a basketball and just lift you in.
Yes.
As long as it's pure arm strength, he's fine.
I know. Yeah.
And drop you into a vehicle. No matter where, like front seat, back seat, truss you up like a deer.
Again, the whole point here being, where were the parents? Like, if her parents were, like, off in La La Land and couldn't even pick up a pack of cigarettes, no, we ain't got time for that.
Okay. Well, but see, this is why I wanted to pull it out of that example first, because I think that you have a valid point about the nuance makes a difference.
Right.
But I wanted to pull it out, is if it were purely a winnings.
Right.
Would it be entirely his decision?
Right.
Like, whatever he decides, he won the money, it's his money.
Right.
Or is it y'all are married and legally speaking, if she decides to divorce him right now, it would be a 50-50 split.
Right.
And whatever he wants to do is...
No, not currently.
Oh, not because it's payout from an insurance claim.
Exactly. It's all his to do what he wants with.
Okay. Well, but no, that is different. That is another difference. So, okay, pulling it out into the example I did may not resolve all the issues.
Right.
All right. So, moving back to the literal problem then.
Right.
So the 100,000 from the insurance, which is, I'm assuming, some form of workers' comp or just directly suing them and their insurance paid.
Right.
See, I struggle with this one because, I mean, you bring up a valid point. If it were, her parents were just off in La La Land.
Right.
And his parents were the one like, honey, are you okay? Let me drive you to your doctor's appointments while I'm driving your father to his doctor's appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then again, that doesn't necessarily present a reality. Like if they're already, if his parents are already struggling under the weight of his father's medical care.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily expect they would be like, sure, we'll be here for you. Because they already have their own struggle. They're like, there's only so much you can do on a sinking ship before you just submerge the thing entirely. It's sunk, it's dead, it's done. But then turn around, her in-laws perfectly healthy, capable, and stable, with no major expenses.
Right.
Would again be, capable of running him to appointments and everything else.
Right.
But does that necessarily sway the need?
Right.
Because there's a need here.
Just one comment here. You're the asshole to yourself. This is blood money, not fun money. This money is to make up for your lost earning potential and any potential hospital bills as a result of that accident. Oh, for your sake, you have thought about your long-term financial position including new extra costs or loss of potential earnings.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a very valid comment because it points out the fact that you didn't just get this for fun.
Right.
As in you had an injury.
Right.
And depending upon what that injury was,
Mm-hmm.
you I hate to call it hillbilly rich, but you're hillbilly rich.
Right.
You got paid for getting injured.
Right.
Much like we set up with UMWA decades ago, pensions that basically
Right.
said we want you to go do all these dangerous, horrible to your body things. We'll find out in a few years how bad they are.
Right.
But go down in this mine shaft, do these things. We'll pay you a good pension. I'm sorry, even though most of that money ended up going to widows one way or another,
Right.
I think those women earned every dime.
And some. Sorry.
Because they were, yeah. Well, because they ended up deprived of their husbands pretty early, one way or another.
Well, deprived of their husbands, deprived in general of their husband, deprived of their livelihood, deprived of their life. And the early years, it's like, what husband?
Yeah.
In here.
Yeah. Constantly working, never can plan anything. You're going to get... Well, I mean, that was a little more my grandparents' experience.
Right.
Because my grandfather, not a miner,
Mm-hmm.
a mine electrician,
Right.
still under UMWA. Like, they had no life for 50 years.
Right.
Because he worked for 50 years. He got the little gold watch and, some stock that turned out to be worthless. And, here's your pension. He retired in 84. He was dead by 1990.
Right.
And they still denied his black lung claim.
Yeah.
So talking about the Ann Moore, she didn't even get that.
Right.
And
the grandfathers,
mm-hmm.
None of them ever made it to retirement.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well,
and I mean that's a repetitive story through my family, like.
Right.
But no, it didn't really work out. A lot of us were like, granted, he ended up working longer than most.
Right.
Because, thankfully being a mine electrician versus a miner, it was a touch safer.
Right.
Still, you're in a mine. It's not, they're like, we're talking about degrees.
Right.
Like minor degrees of safer. But there's still the reality that, like, there's a lot of crankiness and bitchiness with these companies for paying out these pensions.
Right.
And doing everything they can to abandon the obligation.
Right.
Because they don't feel that any of these people are due this money.
Right.
And certainly not with the idea that a lot of these widows far outlived their life expectancy when they created these pensions.
Right.
Like they were, I don't know, someone thought they were going to remarry, or someone thought that they'd be dead by 70.
Right.
75 at the longest. And then a lot of these widows well into their 90s.
Right.
Not to mention a few that married a younger woman. And so they were 40, married a 20-year-old, and then you get an extra 20 years of that pension.
Right.
So yeah, that wasn't, like, I think there were some ideas that your spouse was going to be maybe plus or minus 3 years.
Right. And that isn't always the case.
Right, but that's a slightly different issue, but it is kind of the same, is that, what, like, my grandfather could have just as easily,
right,
figured out, like, if he were to have gotten the money as a lump sum,
right,
would you inherently consider that, given the situation it created in the relationship?
Right.
Like, plan a vacation, good luck. Plan a weekend away, good luck.
Good luck.
Are you going to be home for dinner? Don't know.
Right.
Middle of the night, the phone's ringing constantly.
Right.
Do you feel like, even though he was the one doing all the labor and taking all the direct injury, and that the pension was for him,
Right.
do you inherently think it would have been fair if he had gotten that all as a lump sum for my grandmother to have stepped in and been, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I worked, like, this is a joint decision. This is our money.
Right. I would have at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's why I'm very on the fence about this spread it all around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some issues there with the spread it all around, but I generally go with the idea that if you, like, I was first running it, I think, more through the winnings model.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what a lot of people do in, like, large settlement payout.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's sort of like a windfall. It's a winnings. It's a
Right.
But then there's also this general idea that
Right.
like he is
Right.
splitting it in a way that takes his wife into consideration.
Right.
And takes their joint future into consideration with the 25 to the emergencies.
Right.
But then that last 15 is where they're split. Is like, it's fundamentally, it's 15%.
Right.
And should it all go to one set of in-laws, or should it be split amongst them? And is it inherently fair for her to say this is because of that 15%?
Right.
To say that
this is where I'm at with it. I think it should not go to one or the other. I think it should go to whoever has the bill.
Okay.
Okay. Meaning it goes into an account and it's like, oh, you need chemo treatment. Here you go. I'll write the check for it. Oh, you need, we're all going on a vacation. I'm writing the check for it. That's more my problem.
Well, I think there's another problem here that probably needs to be discussed.
Right.
Is being careful about giving people money.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a your parents are irresponsible. They can't handle this money. No, I mean you may knock them out of beneficial programs unless you unless you set this up properly.
Right.
Like if you just write them a check for 15 or 150 or whatever the real number is.
Right.
If you hand them a lump sum check and you don't do that properly,
right,
you may knock them out of programs. You may screw up any number of things in their lives without realizing the damage it's going to cause.
Right. Not only that, but the other side of this and the more poignant side of this is it then becomes a taxable expense for them where you get this money untaxed.
Right. Like you're taking untaxed income or untaxed. It's not income exactly, is it? It's
no.
It's something else. But anyway, you're taking this untaxed money and then you're turning around, moving it to them, which is going to make it taxed.
Right.
But then again, you could still end up in a situation where technically, and depending upon the exact size of the fund we're talking about,
right,
like 15,000, you're probably not going to cause any problems, and most people aren't going to really pay attention.
Right.
You get to a certain point, someone's going to come in and say you needed to issue a 1099.
Yeah.
Because now this is untaxed income.
Right.
Because it was your settlement check, but when you spend it on someone else's behalf,
Right.
it's now 1099 income.
Right. Whereas if he's
Because-
writing a check out for the father's medical care, which is what he says it's to go for, or the mother-in-law's new dentures or whatever, that's not a taxable income.
Well, but the end result item could
Right.
be considered.
Nah.
Like there's certain gifts and things that you do for people
Right.
that technically, if it's over $600, I think it's supposed to be a 1099. Like a good accountant is going to make you do a 1099.
Right. And if they're on disability, anything over 1,000 in a month knocks them out of their benefits. So there's this whole keep them in their class bull crap that our government goes through, and it's a whole different argument of mine. That you have to watch what you do with money. All right, so the poll is up on Aeson Knight's YouTube channel if you'd like to go and vote and see where it's at. All right, on to relationship advice, and this one kind of hits a lot of bases.
All right. I, 23 female, think my ex-boyfriend, 25 male, blocked me. I, 23 female, think my ex, 25 male, blocked me. A few weeks ago, we ended up having to live in two separate places temporarily due to an injury on his end, which meant he couldn't get up the stairs very well, which the apartment requires to get into. I ended up staying at the apartment to watch the pets, and he ended up staying with his parents. Recently, however, he had been off, not messaging me back for a few days, more into his video games, etc. It was rather frustrating, especially since I reached out first and frequently, but it felt like he barely did. I ended up telling him it bothered me and asked him if it was his way of hinting he wanted to break up. He said, no, I worry too much. It was fine, etc. Well, for the past 2 days, I haven't been able to get a hold of him or either of his parents. I go straight to voicemail and my messages are not delivered. Part of me is conflicted and worried that he's injured, having all the phone numbers go straight to voicemail and his dog's chip is in my name.
That means it's your dog.
I also have a lot of his clothes and things, so I can't see why he wouldn't have at least told me he wanted to break up so we could get the dog's chip, papers transferred into his name, his stuff back to him, etc. We're both in our 20s, and ghosting feels like something for Snapchatting teens, not adults who had moved in with each other. He was also talking about things like where we would move to soon, etc. The other part of me is pretty sure this was a pathetic way of breaking up with me, since I can't see any reason for none of my methods of contact going through that would have gone on the news. I'm too far away to go check myself either, since it would be a couple hundred in a taxi. I'm hoping to borrow a friend's phone tomorrow, but I'm not sure it'll do any good. I just really don't know where to go from here or how to get any kind of closure if he really did block me, since I knew we were having bumps, but not relationship ending things like this. There's a lot going on in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, okay. So I understand the first part. Like, he got injured, I'm assuming like a broken leg. Let's
Right.
just call it a broken leg.
Right.
And so they had to live in two different places because he can't walk up to the apartment. It's a walk-up apartment.
Right.
A walk-up flat if you're in other areas
Right.
of the world. So she stayed at the apartment due to the pets, and he went with his parents because assumably they can, like he just walked into the living room.
Right.
Or it's a one level and he
Right.
could go to like his childhood bedroom that's now mom's sewing room with a bed. Whatever. So he gets there. Apparently his game system went with him. But he hasn't been responding.
Mm-hmm.
Really. And then when he responded, she was always having to initiate, and then he was just kind of like, meh, hey, how's it going?
Right.
So then, yeah, it gets weirder and weirder.
Well,
It's
then
like
he
you
goes
gave him the out.
unresponsive. Well, he first goes unresponsive. Then now it's just going to voicemail, and messages are not delivered.
Yeah, but she gave him the option of like, do you want to break up?
Right.
Like, like if that's what you want, at least tell me.
Right.
I understand maybe why the parents aren't answering.
Right.
Because I don't know, I don't know about you, but I always hated that
Right.
in like teenage dating.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm not answering, don't call my parents.
Right.
Don't call my parents.
Right.
Leave my parents out of this. That was for emergencies. This is not an emergency. Just because you can't reach me isn't an emergency. And it sounds like she has worn that out.
Exactly. I think the parents are done with the obsessive calling.
Yeah, and don't have your parents call me either. Like I get really meh about that one. Like that is such a
Well, not only that, but it's like, don't go there. Dude's done. Like, dude is checked out of Texas. Done.
well, but is it checked out of the relationship or is it checked out of the world due to the injury and perhaps meds and healing?
Or both.
Or a little column A, little column B, this is the unfortunate perfect storm.
Right. I think that probably dude is out of it. Because she's like, oh, he's in his video games. Is he? Or is he just like not here? Because I remember when you had your neck surgery, you weren't awake, you weren't alive, like nobody, you weren't answering phone calls.
I was dead to the world, and I really didn't give a crap.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, like that may sound horrible to other people, but I really couldn't have cared two shits.
Right.
Part of that was the meds. Part of it was I was, like that, like knocked out by the surgery because it does kind of knock you down a little bit. But the meds don't help, let me tell you. And you do end up needing a lot of sleep and rest. And then when you are awake, no, I don't really have the capacity.
Right.
To care about other people or their problems or what the hell's going on. Like, it just isn't a viable thing for me.
Right.
Like, I can't invest. And quite frankly, I didn't care what the crap you were doing.
Right.
Like, you wanted to host a swingers orgy in the living room, I would not have probably noticed.
As long as you got your water, you were fine.
Exactly. Like, keep me watered, feed me 3 times a day, maybe 2. I like 1 at least.
Yeah.
And just make sure I have water to take my meds.
Right.
So I can roll over and do that, and then don't block the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like.
Exactly.
Okay, Brenda makes a good point, but that's a different story.
That's a completely different ballgame there, Brenda.
Yeah. Like, she calls me to do stuff, most of which is not to, like, insert herself in our relationship, ask me what the problem is, and try to negotiate a solution. That's the mama, daddy phone call. It's like, do not do that.
Yeah.
Like, no, if I'm not talking to you because we're having a relationship issue,
don't call them parents.
Adding your parents to it is not helping. It's just going to tick me off.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was dating an adult. I'm not a pedophile. If you just had to have your mommy handle your relationship, I kind of feel like a pedophile now because apparently I'm not dating an adult.
Well, and to be clear, Mama Knight doesn't do that. Like, she is well of her boundaries.
Like, no. She could care less. Like, I can murder him. She'd be fine with that. She's actually asked me to do that a few times. But I could murder him, and as long as I don't just up and disappear, she's fine.
Exactly.
He can disappear all he wants to.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
Yes, we are teasing, Mom. Don't call and fuss because we're talking bad about you.
No, she knows what she said. She, the other, well, this has been more than just the other day. This has been like a month or so ago. She actually claimed she had no responsibility for bringing you into this world. And I had to remind her, oh, yes, she did. I was like, no, 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 no. There is a birth certificate. You are on it. You brought him into this world. We're real sure of his maternity. You created that.
Uh-huh.
She got tickled. It was one of those moments. She said something without really thinking, and then, like, it was out of her mouth as the brain kicked in. Well, I can't really say that. That's not true.
Uh-huh.
But it was hilarious. Like, I about wrecked the car. I was like, the hell you didn't? That's all you.
Uh-huh. Well, mostly her, but, you know.
Oh, and I think her last words on it were, don't tell him.
Anyway, too late.
Oops. I figured you'd get a chuckle.
I think it's funny. You know, I just think it's hilarious sometimes some of the things that comes out of Mama Knight's mouth just to come out of her mouth. And she's got my same sense of humor that we can deadpan something and you're like, are you serious? And you're like, yeah, we're serious. And it's like, no, we're not. But anyhow.
Oh, God.
And to clarify to anybody that happens to see us out, yes, we talk to each other that way all the time. No, we are not fighting.
Brenda.
But
The demons dropped him off on her doorstep. Yeah, it answers many things, especially that laugh. Because I'm pretty sure if you record because we have recording, but if you play it backwards, if you just take this clip and play it backwards, I'm sure that you will hear like 6 different languages being spoken.
Possibly. Anyhow, yes, we do bicker.
After a while, sarcasm is a love language, says Shannon. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh.
But no. I don't remember who. It was you. You're like, y'all guys hate each other. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
It took me a while to get used to your and your mother's relationship because, yeah, it's a little more like Dorothy Sophia than First Meets the Eye. It's yeah.
Yeah, I just got to find Shady Pines. I mean, we've got Pine Lodge, but that isn't close enough.
According to your mother, you already have.
No, we have not.
I mean, technically it's called Wildwood, but, you know, the home that he put me in.
And I did not put her in.
She checked herself in. I know.
She moved herself in. I wasn't even home when she done it. I didn't even know she was doing it. I was somewhere, Princeton.
I know. I'm just saying. Like, there's some revisionist history going on there. I'm just saying.
Revisionist history, honey. There is fan fiction going on there.
I don't think you get to call it fan fiction when you hate it.
I don't hate it.
Not you!
See, that's just it. If she wasn't complaining about Wildwood, I would think, okay, she's not liking it there. We need to talk to her about moving. Maybe we can move her to the tower in Princeton and move down to Princeton. I understand Georgia has some very lovely senior communities we could look at. I would be entertaining these factors.
Right.
However, it is my mother. And I know my mother very well. If she says nothing about it, she hates it. If she complains about it, she actually cares about it and is actually happy but unhappy about something small.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Furthermore, the next time she calls it the home, remind her that, Stonecliff Manor is still waiting.
I get the feeling that's like the nursing home equivalent of Trans-Allegheny. Anywho, moving on. So back to the relationship advice. I feel like we should go back there.
Well, we'll get there.
Oh, okay. Is this going to be one of those pamphlets as a website?
Yeah.
That just shows smiling, happy, dead people that they hired to come in and look like they enjoyed the place?
Beautiful place.
It's beautiful. There's bars on the window. It's gorgeous. The views are amazing. My window overlooks the parking lot.
Right.
Which I'm granted for. Never mind. Oh, that could be a genre, Brenda.
What?
Shady Pines fan fiction. Or caregiver putting your mother into Shady Pines fan fiction.
Uh-huh.
That could be a... Oh. All right, we have one happy old lady. The village... Oh, so they've changed names?
They've changed names.
Okay, so the village is at Greystone. Ah, we're all about your peace of mind. Oh, fun. So independent living options with assisted living options. So there's a nursing home called The Inn.
Uh-huh.
Where you can check out, but you can never leave. What? It's true. Might as well have just slapped Hotel California in front of it and at least letting us all got the giggle. You can check out, but you can never leave.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, but no, it is pretty. They always look pretty, though.
Yeah.
Aw, little old man playing putt-putt. Little old man with his car. People hooked to oxygen planting, plants. Ring toss for toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it always looks cute in the brochures.
Of course.
Can you tell I'm going to a nursing facility kicking and screaming, like, just let me slip and fall and die at home?
Fine, but don't do it in the bathroom. I don't want to replace the door.
It's the most common place that my family members die.
I know. That's why I'm telling you, don't do it there.
Oh, like I control that.
Debatable.
But yeah, it looks fun. Everyone looks happy. Okay, except for the one dude in the weird fun place to work employment page. He doesn't look happy.
Yeah.
But dear God.
What?
Sorry, there's apparently the Villages of Greystone is a very large, like, network of places
Uh-huh.
across West Virginia and Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was expecting like 1 or 2 locations in West Virginia, probably all centered around Beckley, but it's like Beckley, Barbersville, Parkersburg, Proctorville, Athens, Weirton, Columbus, London, Circleville, Vandalia, Springfield, Urbana, Lima, Van Wert, Defiance. Like, it is spread across 2 states.
Yes. We can move her around.
You're already planning for her to get kicked out or burn one down.
Both. I mean, I have my backup plan.
I don't think she'll be the one to burn it down. I think she'll be the accomplice.
Knowing my mother, she'll be the one that bought the s'mores.
Probably. Was it s'mores or popcorn?
S'mores.
S'mores, okay. Sorry, Shady Pines burned down. We all knew this. It's like the original show. Well, second, what was it? The season 1, episode 2? Or was that episode 1?
2.
Yeah. Because that's where we got Sophia and lost the housekeeper.
Right.
That no one ever remembered.
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, I think it was episode 2, and that's when we lost the housekeeper. They like wrote him out.
Yeah. September 4th, 1985, Shady Pines burnt down after a heater fire, causing Sophia to move in with Dorothy, Blanche, and Rose. After a short time, Shady Pines was reconstructed, with Sophia not returning. However, she did keep in contact with her friends and entered the talent show in 1 episode.
Yes. Well, but then she got investigated because apparently her and her friend are actually the ones that burned the place down.
Right.
Yeah.
Later, come back up here. Later claimed by a farmer resident, the late Murray Hartgrove, who was apparently always jealous of Sophia Petrillo, on her deathbed that Sophia started the fire and she was arrested for arson. Sophia was later released when Rose found evidence of faulty wiring that caused the fire. The owners of the facility had bribed a fire inspector to falsify his report.
Ah, there we go. I couldn't remember how it all worked out, but I remembered she was investigated for arson.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, all right.
Oh, and cartwheels. I've got to work on cartwheels if we're going to do this. But anyhow.
Here.
Yep. All right. So my advice to Block Girl is this: get some boxes, pack his shit up, decide if you want his dog or not. If not, call the chip place and have his name done on it. Contact whoever, send a certified letter with the storage facility and the key or code to it, and put his crap there and move on. You're not going to get closure from this.
I don't think so. Either that or like you're gonna have to wait this out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So assuming it's a broken leg.
Right. That's 6 weeks.
Well, that's 6 to 8 weeks. So pay for a couple. If you're gonna go the storage route, like pay for whatever it takes to get at least 3 months from date of injury, and like bandage it.
Right.
Like whatever, give him a month of recovered.
Right.
Before he has to start dealing with trying to get his crap.
Right.
Like, don't force his parents to go pull his crap out of storage.
Right.
Like, it sucks.
Right.
Like if you're gonna go that route, go that route. But just make sure he has time to legitimately get over there, get it out, and whatever. Like, be amicable.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a. And this is the problem with ghosting, is you don't get to know.
Right.
I don't know that it's ghosting. I think there's a possibility he's just, recovering, meted up, and spaced out.
Right.
Like, so, but this was a few weeks ago that this all started. I would think by a month, if he isn't contacting you, then yeah, go ahead and get that storage and chunk it in.
Exactly.
And call it.
And be done.
All right.
Alrighty. So let's go over and check, are you an asshole?
And the survey says,
No, you are not the asshole for wanting to give your parents money, but not your in-laws. Although, it's not the best financial move.
yeah. Okay, I think we can agree on that. Like, this is a horrible financial plan, but if you're gonna do it, I'm struggling to call you the asshole for that. I think I think there's a valid argument, but I think he took care of, as long as it was not his in-laws transporting him everywhere and taking care of him.
Right.
He managed his, obligations, and technically,
Right.
if he wants to go blow 15%, that's his choice.
That's his choice. Not the best choice.
Not a great choice, but
it's a choice. All right, and it would not make him the asshole.
no. Granted, he's using it for good reasons. So I think calling it blowing it, but technically, fundamentally, he can go below 15%, and that's
right, because Uncle Sam's going to want 7.
Potentially, yeah. If that wasn't already withheld.
Right.
But yeah.
So, all right. Well, this week we have, I don't know if we're going to have coffee and tea, because Miss Natalie's not been doing well. We will check and see.
She's not.
Yes,
we'll see how she's doing.
We will make the announcement that it's canceled. Of course, we have Mountain Bears, and then we have our Psychic Saturday on Saturday for your interview at 8 p.m. And then on Sunday, you're going to see us go from start to finish on setting up the quarter, the month, and the week.
Should be fun. Should be fun.
It will be a long stream, guys. Just buckle in.
So we'll be starting the Psychic Fit Plans at 7 on Sunday.
On Sunday.
Yep.
Yep. And hopefully we'll have some things worked out, because I've been trying to put together my old life with my new life. Meaning taking my years at working at a certain large bank in database management and adding it into this world, which can be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit of digital planning.
A little bit of
digital organization.
Or at least digital organization. We'll see about everything else. We're not making plans yet. We're just going to see where we go and how we can make it work. But
if you Gantt chart breakfast, I'm going to smack you.
Why can't I Gantt chart breakfast?
Because no, I'm still traumatized by Gantt charts.
Okay. What's
your
problem with Gantt charts? They're very useful.
You can present data to me in any other means.
Okay.
But a Gantt chart.
Okay.
I hate Gantt charts.
All right.
They make me mad.
Well, aren't you glad I'm more of a compound board?
Yes, that makes more sense and is less taxing on my brain, and I don't get lost in the weeds of detail of like, should you really do that in that time frame? But yeah.
Well, I can show you the Gantt chart for breakfast. It's real simple.
Throw money at me and wait for me to get back from Burger King?
No. No. Breakfast is real simple for me. The Gantt chart is right here. I will bring it up on screen.
Oh, Lord. Waiting for it.
Wait a minute, I gotta get the presentation mode up.
the Gantt chart for breakfast.
Yes. There you go.
Alrighty. Bad project management jokes. All right.
Those what? Rebrand it for me.
Okay. Those scattered fits drive me crazy. Those scattered dots drive me crazy. Oh, talking about the planner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or talking about Gantt charts. Either way, it gets annoying.
Yes.
Like, it's like, wait, what? Like, I understand it. It shows dependencies and timelining based on dependencies, and it does make it easier to update the one thing took longer or took less, and then let everything else snap. I get that, but like, until you've actually created a Gantt chart, you don't get to choose whether you love or hate them. But once you have, you get to choose. And again, some people are Gantt chart people, and they work beautifully for them. And I have appreciation for your existence in the world. Please don't show me a Gantt chart.
Compound boards are much easier to manage. They're greater for larger projects, especially long-term projects, and they balance the equity a lot better than a Gantt chart.
Yeah.
Not only that, but CEOs can actually read a compound board. I have not met a CEO yet that can read a Gantt chart.
Yeah. Is one of the most, and the funny, okay, I bring this up because I have personal trauma around Gantt charts, because this was a big part of my IT education, was the amount of time spent creating Gantt charts. I literally never use the skill or the software after college.
It's like COBOL. Nobody writes in COBOL. Why are we still teaching our college students COBOL?
Oh, see, that actually has a fun problem. See, no new company is using COBOL.
Right.
Our federal government and the IRS are heavily dependent upon it.
For the moment.
Yeah. We have a lot of systems that are stuck because it's easier, cheaper, and more efficient to maintain this antiquated programming language than it is to transfer the systems over to a more modern programming language.
Right.
The only problem with that is no matter which way you go, you need COBOL programmers. You either need COBOL programmers to support the nightmare, or you need COBOL programmers who understand what the hell the nightmare does, so you can translate that into another programming language.
Well, I understand we've got the FBI Center and we've got a few IRS agencies around here. There is no reason they're still teaching that in university. No reason.
But it's a big part of governmental jobs.
For the moment.
Again, and at some point we hope this will end, and I think that's part of the reason that schools are still teaching it, is in the hope that they'll get enough students through the program to learn the language as well as other programming languages, and then go off and modernize, like get the nice government job where you sit there and modernize these antiquated systems.
Yeah.
Before they fail.
Well, and they're going to fail quickly.
Well, and they are failing.
Right.
Like that's the problem, is that, part one of it is you don't have programmers to keep it maintained, or enough programmers to maintain it. But then you start changing tax codes every year. Right. And like the IRS alone, it's a struggle. You want to know why your refund's late? A big part of it has to do with the fact that their whole database is in COBOL.
Right.
So every tax change has to have a COBOL programmer associated to it.
Right.
To go do that.
I think we should go to the simple 9% and be done with it.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Everyone write a check
Flat
for
rate.
9% to the government twice a year, and that's all you do.
And then we'll all bicker about how much of 9% of what? Gross, net minus expenses, net minus
Net. No loopholes, no write-offs, none of that. 9% goes to the government. They collect more taxes. It's a simple check, just like you do. You pay it at the cash register, and you're done.
Can work.
Yes, very good solution. All right, y'all. We hope you've enjoyed tonight, and take it away, Vanna.
All right, so of course we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes.
Night, y'all.